Hey everyone, it's me, Ryan from Illuminerdi. We have the cast of Expedition Bigfoot. Hello.
Hey.
How's it going, Ryan?
Yes, we're doing good.
Good.
How are you doing?
Good.
Is Bigfoot the last remaining survivor of a species, or are there more of them?
That's a great question, and one that we probably don't have the answers to because, unfortunately, we don't have a body on a lab table, so all we can do is sort of surmise from what we know and postulate. But if you're asking me, I would, I don't know, I get stuck between whether it's some relict hominid or, perhaps something stranger. I'm not quite sure.
Interesting. Now, this question is for all you guys. Bigfoot's legacy has been expanded in many shows and documentaries. Did you guys talk to any experts before the series started?
For me, I've always been into this subject and started researching it just in my own neck of the woods in Massachusetts. So it's something that I started talking to the BFRO and different researchers that have been doing it for a while, start to learn some different techniques, and then just started having my own experiences out there, which is pretty wild.
Dr. Mayer?
Well, as a primatologist, I came at it from a scientific point of view, right? My role is to keep it grounded in science and analyze the evidence and hopefully put forth enough scientific evidence that will put it into the book of, say, scientific discovery. So in this field, I'd say there is no expert because we don't know very much about it. We haven't even proven its existence. So I come at it from the previous expeditions that I've conducted in different parts of the world and bring those skills into this to try and track what we're looking for.
It is a fast and loose term, right? Like Bigfoot expert.
Yeah.
Right?
And Russell?
It's like they're both saying, there's no experts, but I talk to people with the most experience in research. One of them would be Bob Gimlin from the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film. Dr. Jeff Meldrum. There's a lot of people that have a lot of experience and knowledge, and I've been talking to these guys for years, so it's interesting because everybody has their own different perspective.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So my next question again for all you guys. You've been part of intense or dangerous situations throughout the show. Like, what was the most terrifying experience you guys had experienced while filming?
Anything before coffee.
I immediately look to Russ. I feel like, being on the show and then watching it as a viewer too, I'm always sort of, cringing for what Russ is putting himself through. So he seems to be constantly in danger's way, but I think everybody when they're out there, there's dangers abound. But Russ, I don't know. I think of you in that whatever something charge you had was pretty good.
Yeah, the bluff charge is probably the most scary thing I've been through because something rushed me and the cameraman through the woods out of the darkness, and we never did see what it was, and that was just primal and instinctive. You don't know what to do in a situation like that. You just hope that you're doing the right thing in that situation, and we came out okay. But I mean, everybody puts themselves in spots that we really shouldn't be in. Some of the caves you've gone into, I couldn't even fit.
Right.
And she goes into spaces I would never. We all get on that razor's edge.
Mm-hmm. I remember there was a time in Kentucky where we felt like there was 3 of them around us. We're hearing sounds and loud, aggressive sounds that you normally wouldn't hear from an animal unless it wants to get your attention.
Yeah.
And there was a point in time that we just felt like we're in a bad position right now. So that was, I think, one of the scariest for me.
Yes.
One of the situations we always find ourselves in is that we are in areas that are obviously sustaining lots of large mammals, and that's why we partly select these areas. So at any given time, that there are large bears and that there are other carnivores, and they're very good at seeing us, but we don't have that same kind of vision, so we can't see them.
Right.
Excellent. Going forward to the next question. You all been part of 3 expeditions, which is of course in Oregon, Kentucky, and Washington State. Of all the 3, which one was your most favorite, and do you believe you found the most compelling evidence?
I'd have to say Washington State.
Yeah, Washington State too.
Yeah. It's given us a lot of really interesting evidence, but as much as I love Washington, it's always that first expedition that when we met in Oregon and it just kind of broke ground and started getting our rhythm.
Although Kentucky yielded some really good stuff
that
too.
offered up that eDNA
We got
sample.
a very surprising find there that really, even the geneticists had to raise an eyebrow. None of us were expecting to find chimpanzee DNA in a Kentucky forest.
It's hard to pick a favorite because they're all just amazing areas.
Yeah.
Yes. So next question is for Dr. Mayor. What made you passionate in pursuing primatology?
I love the idea of discovery and I love exploration, and there is still so much that we don't know about what's out there in nature, and so it was a perfect fit. It's what I've done my entire adult life, is go in pursuit of animals that are very rare, elusive, that we know nothing about. Some of them had never been photographed before I went out into the field, so this fit perfectly into what really I was already doing naturally.
Interesting. So this season you worked with Dr. Jane Goodall. What did her insight contribute to the expedition?
Well, for me personally, I've known Jane now for about a decade, and she's always been an inspiration, and it was really important for me to get her thoughts on this, because there are a lot of skeptics and there are a lot of people that don't feel the pursuit is really worthwhile. So to hear her say how important it is to keep an open mind and how it's really at the heart of science, that curiosity and that sense of wonder, it really made me feel like we were out there doing something really important and that we needed to keep that search going.
Interesting. So my next question is for Roni. So you came in the show later on. What garnered your interest in joining this team?
Well, I mean, I had written a book called Monsterland about area back home, and had gotten a call where RPG had kind of gone down, and they needed somebody else on the team. It was ongoing, so it was unexpected for me, and it's been an amazing ride. But so it's within 48 hours, I had to be out there, and so that was just was wild.
Answered the call.
Yeah.
It was so fortuitous too. We're so lucky to have
He
Roni.
literally
You
hit
know?
the ground running.
So my next question for you guys is, how do you guys decide what content goes into an episode? Is it through chronologically or subject-based?
It's what we find out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of expeditions, is that you don't know what you're going to find. Like when we went back to Washington State, we were hoping that we could pick up where we left off, because it felt like we were hot on the trail of something and we were forced out by the fires, but we didn't know. And then once we got there, that's where everything unfolds, and we get our next lead and our next lead, and we follow that while we're in the field. So there's no set plan other than to try and follow that hot lead to get us to where we need to be.
Excellent. Now, my final question is, it's two-parters. Now, what will your reaction be when you find Bigfoot, and what's next for the show after you find Bigfoot? I guess. So could you find maybe a Loch Ness Monster or a Chupacabra?
A lot of people talk about, like, you know, this, they can't find Bigfoot, otherwise the show has to end. And I think that would just be the beginning, right? That we could prove that there's something out there like this, and then I think the real kind of study begins, because now we confirm that they're real for everybody's satisfaction, and then I think we would just start building on top of that.
I mean, yeah, sorry, I was going to say, as a scientist, my first thing is I'd want to know everything about it, right? And I'd want to make sure that we're protecting a newfound species. So I think that would be like where the real magic happens.
I would say there seems to be no amount of, you know, photographic or videographic evidence that will satisfy
Sure.
the general public. So even if we did capture some daylight sighting, I mean, you know, in the last 3 years, we've gotten some pretty incredible thermals, and they're tantalizing. And so even if we did find some great video footage, the show would go on, because, you know, it's just a glimpse. It's just a fleeting glimpse. The best videos, purported videos of these things, literally last about a minute long. So, you know, I think there's always room to, you know, keep getting great photos, keep getting great night vision, scope, thermal videos and stuff like that. And so there's always room to get more evidence of Bigfoot. But
I'm with Ronnie, though. When he says that it's just the beginning, do you realize that if we were able to put in front of you Bigfoot, how many people have kept their stories a secret? And how many people would step forward and start sharing that? That would be a whole new
like a paradigm
way.
shift,
It'd be
yeah.
incredible, because the people that were hesitant to come forward because nobody's really proved it, once they know that they're not going to be mocked or laughed at, they're going to come forward and boldly and say, hey, this is what I have. And that would be just the beginning.
Yes. And hopefully you guys find him, and so you can find out the truth. Again, thank you guys for taking your time for this interview.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank
yeah,
you.
appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.